Hi folks, how are you doing? I'm the Reverend Danny Crosby, a Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and in Urmston in the northwest of England. And I'm offering you this devotion as a balm for the heart, for the mind, for the spirit, for the soul. It is titled, Anger is an Energy. It can destroy or it can create. So in our usual way, I invite us to still ourselves together. Let's invite a loving presence to be here amongst us and to awaken from deep, deep within us all. I have lit the flame of freedom in this cup of belonging, acceptance, and love. We join together, physically separate, but united in our devotion to life and to love. Holy One who has given us the breath of life, today we remember to breathe deeply, to rest, to take in, to pause before we act, and then to take in another deep breath, poised on the edge, and risk jumping in, risk taking action, risk speaking up, risk using the gifts that we have been given, so that at the end of our life we may say with absolute clarity that no part of our existence was wasted in fear of failure or fear of success. Hold us, prepare us the way to begin to offer the gift of our awakened presence, full of love and full of light today. These are the prayers of our hearts that we lift up now to you, Spirit of all that has been and that will ever be, Spirit of life. Bless our day. Amen. We live on an angry planet, or at least it certainly seems that way. Anger seems to be everywhere. People appear ever more angry. A friend contacted me the other day, troubled by the anger she'd felt toward another friend of hers, who'd been asking her actually some rather personal and probing questions. She got defensive about this. Now, I don't think her response, from what she told me, was that inappropriate. I think she dealt with it quite well. She certainly wasn't rude or insulting in her reply. But the trouble she had was dealing with how she felt afterwards. She was very angry. And she asked me how I managed to stay calm in similar situations. Well, I explained to her that I'd learnt to be like that from a very, very young age. It was my way of controlling the potential anger of other people around me, people I perceived to be threats. What I also said was, though, that I'd not always dealt with my internal anger over the years. In fact, I'd not dealt with it at all. I'd just not reacted angrily. The anger was still there deep, deep inside, and the anger that was deep inside of me remained just as destructive as that anger that some people express outwardly. It certainly damaged me. I have learnt over time that anger, like all other emotions, has its place. It is not wrong to feel angry. There are times when it's entirely appropriate to feel angry. The key is what we do with these feelings. Do these feelings inspire us to creativity, or do these feelings become destructive, whether outwardly or inwardly? We have the feeling there for a reason. It's not wrong in and of itself. It's a response to stimuli, response to life, just as every other emotion is. That said, there does seem to be a lot of anger around at the moment. I think the feelings have intensified over the last 18 months. Have we been hit by the COVID crisis longer than 18 months now, isn't it? I keep saying 18 months. It's been going on longer. I have noticed that since the lockdown kind of came to a kind of end here in England, folk have in strange ways I've discovered or observed have struggled more perhaps than they did when things were locked down. I think, and I certainly wonder if this has been due in some way or form or way to the fact that folk have been clinging on, holding on through it all, and now some sense of normality has returned. Many have struggled more as they've kind of sighed. Some relief has come. What I've noticed is that there's increasing anxiety and a sense of anger growing in people. And it tends to be not creative, it tends to be more destructive. Anger towards all sorts of things. Yes, folk are angry, but they're not all angry at the same things. What I have noticed is that much of this anger seems to become obsessively focused, though, on whatever the object, the individual, or the group might be angry at, and there are many, many polar opposites actually. And there's nothing new, particularly in this. We humans have projected our obsessive anger onto people, places, and things throughout our history. And in time, the anger becomes even more deep seated, even more obsessive, and it transforms into deep rooted resentment. And when deep rooted resentment takes hold, you cannot reason with the angry person. They are just focused purely on the object of their anger, dare I say, hatred. This is the reason that everything is wrong. This is the reason I'm in pain. This is the reason that the world's going to ruin. We must destroy what is the cause of all our troubles. Resentment is a waste of life, but it's more than that, it's blooming dangerous. Resentment so quickly becomes all consuming. It takes over your whole life. And you know what? You'll find many examples of this in human literature. People seem to write a lot about it. I think a classic example would be Captain Ahab. Remember him? Well, my friend who I mentioned earlier produced a copy of Moby Dick from her handbag while we were talking over coffee the other day. In Herman Melville's Moby Dick, Captain Ahab is consumed by his rage against the white whale Moby Dick, who in a previous voyage had destroyed Ahab's ship and bitten off his leg. So Ahab, vowing revenge, sets out on a voyage to hunt down the white whale. He becomes so consumed by his rage and his desire for revenge that as time goes by, he no longer sees Moby Dick merely as the perpetrator of an evil act, but as the devil incarnate, as the sum and the substance of all evil that occurs in our lives. Just think about today. Aren't there many versions of the white whale throughout the world? There may be very different ones. Well, if you don't believe me, spend a few hours on social media and you will see these all-consuming white whales that take over some people's lives. It consumes and it destroys. Ahab grapples with the white whale right until the end. And at the end, he hurls his final harpoon and he cries out, "To the last I grapple with thee, from hell's heart I stab at thee, for hate's sake I spit my last breath at thee." And they both go under. Now, I know this is only a work of fiction, a great work of fiction, by the way, and one actually written by a man who had Unitarian links. I understand that when Herman Melville worshipped at the All Souls in New York, he was working on Moby Dick itself. I hope it wasn't the minister's sermons that was inspiring him at the time, or maybe they were in a different way. There is something in this work of fiction that speaks to me, and I believe it can speak to all of us when we look at the power of rage and the destructive nature of deep rooted resentment. We only need to look at the world that we live in today to see examples of this kind of obsessive rage all around us. I wonder, have you ever been consumed by such rage? Sometimes it doesn't come up immediately. It can come years later, it can be buried. They say that anger is like a fire. It can smolder for some time and then suddenly blaze or burn with fury. But anger, like fire, of course, does serve a purpose, and an essential one at times. It can bring warmth where cruel coldness once reigned. It can destroy what is harmful and oppressive, as it has throughout history. The problem, of course, is that sometimes the right healing does not follow the fire, the destruction, because we have to build again after destruction, and I'm not sure that rage and anger is the emotion we need to rebuild, because if it is, that maybe it becomes destructive. Anger in and of itself is neither good nor is it bad. It's what is done with this emotion. That's what really makes the difference. As Aristotle so wisely recognized when he asked not whether anger is good or bad, but how it shall be used, directed at whom, manifested how, for how long, and to what end. It's an emotion like any other. Anger can be an example of deep care, deep, deep care. I have noticed feelings of anger in myself this week. I was It was all over me one evening, dreams and everything. I have realized that in my life, in certain situations, I have remained too silent, too passive, afraid to speak out when I should have spoken out. Now, some of the anger I've experienced is frustration at myself. I am becoming aware that the feelings are a nudge. They're telling me there's something inside of me telling me, speaking to me. I would call this the voice of God, the voice of conscience, telling me that it is right to speak out, it is right to act. To ignore it is to be part of the destruction. The key is discovering the right and appropriate ways to, to act, to speak out, to achieve this, and also to do so in ways that add to life's creation and not life's destruction. How we respond to these feelings is vital. In the gospel accounts, you will see examples of Jesus becoming angry at injustice. The gentle Jesus, meek and mild image is not an accurate one. He raged against the religious leaders of his day who seemed to place observance of the law over caring for the people. It seems that the heart of the law was missed, it seems, the purpose of the law by just blindly following the rules. A classic example of this can be found in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 13, of Jesus healing on the Sabbath. To Jesus, what mattered were the people. This is what he cared for rather than just blind observance of the laws. It seems that the spirit at the heart of the law had got lost in just pure observance, blind observance. What did Jesus do? He healed people of the Sabbath right in front of the Pharisees. His anger compelled him to act in love and justice. He had saw that the law had lost sight of the people, and so he saw his purpose as a good Jew to return the law to the people. I recently came across this wonderful, wonderful poem, Making a Fist by Naomi Shihab Nye. Here is Making a Fist by Naomi Shihab Nye. For the first time on the road of Tampico, I felt the life sliding out of me, a drum in the desert, harder and harder to hear. I was 7. I lay in the car watching palm trees swirl a sickening pattern past the glass. My stomach was a melon split wide inside my skin. How do you know if you are going to die? I begged my mother. We had been travelling for days. With strange confidence, she answered, when you can no longer make a fist. Years later, I smile to think of that journey, the borders we must cross separately, stamped with our unanswerable woes. I, who did not die, who am still living, still lying in the back seat behind all my questions, clenching and opening one small hand. Anger can be creative. It is wrong to see the feeling as merely negative and destructive. Naomi Shihab Nye's fist is a gesture, of self-determination, of the will to live, of a fury just to stay alive. And this power can become a seed that can compel us to act in ways to aid the creation of life and not just its destruction. In fact, if we don't use that energy, maybe we are aiding the destruction if we ignore it. And this is beautifully illustrated in another poem about hands, really. This verse from Thich Nhat Hanh, For Warmth, by Thich Nhat Hanh. I hold my face in my 2 hands. I hold my face in my 2 hands. No, I am not crying. I hold my face in my 2 hands to keep the loneliness warm. 2 hands protecting, 2 hands nourishing, 2 hands preventing my soul from leaving me in anger. He wrote this poem after the Vietnamese village Ben Tre Tre that he and his monks had helped to rebuild 4 times had been destroyed once again by American bombers. Over time, he tenderly cared for his anger, knowing that it could be turned into the action needed for his country's survival. Anger is an important human emotion. We have it for good reason. You can't live without it, actually, like all the emotions. The key, you see, is what we do with the energy, what we do with this feeling. Do we use it to be part of the creation or the destruction of life? In Women Who Run with Wolves, Clarissa Pinkola writes the following. All emotion, even rage, carries knowledge, insight, what some call enlightenment. Our rage can, for a time, become a teacher, a thing not to be rid of so fast. The cycle of rage is like any other cycle. It rises, falls, dies, and is released as new energy. Allowing oneself to be taught by one's rage, therefore, thereby transforming it, disperses it. So rather than trying to behave and not feel our rage, or rather than using it to burn down every living thing in a 100-mile radius, it is better to first ask rage to take a seat with us. Have some tea, talk a while so we can find out what summons this visitor. A bit like Rumi's guest house. Let them all in. Welcome them in. We cannot hide from our feelings of anger, nor should we destroy them. But we do need to realize them and create something from this fire that burns inside our hearts. It is there for a reason, and the reason needs to be found out, or it can destroy us. It can just burn and burn away inside us. The key is to make good use of the anger. Now, what that might be, I can't tell you that. You have to discover that yourselves. You don't need me to tell you, or don't let anybody else tell you. Discover yourselves. You have these feelings. Even if you don't recognize the feelings, they are there. No one is without them. Rather, like no one is without a feeling of love or fear or any other human emotion. They're all there. The key is to understand them. See what these feelings are compelling you to do, compelling you to engage with in order to participate in the creation of life. For our world needs us to participate in the creation of life and not its destruction. There's far too much destructive rage all around us. We live on an angry planet, it seems. And that anger and that rage is getting louder and more destructive as time goes by. We need to build, we need to listen and become part of the creation of life and not its destruction. We play our role, we are not passengers in life. So know your anger. Do not flee your anger. Understand your anger. Make something useful from your anger. Let your anger become a part of the creation. It may inspire you to be a part of the creation of life. For our world needs us to be a part of the creation of life. There's too much destruction. We are here to repair as well as destroy. We're a part of the whole. No part is insignificant. We play a small but vital role in all life. We really do, I promise you. I'm going to end this little reflection with another poem by Stephen M. Schick, which is entitled Useful Anger. And it begins with a quotation from Marge Piercy. A Useful Anger by Stephen M. Schick. A good anger swallowed clots the blood to slime. But what is to be done with it, this anger that dared not be swallowed? Should it be diluted with denial, cooled with indifference? Should it be sweetened with good intentions, softened with lies? Should it be spewed out red hot over searing tongues, scorching the guilty and the innocent alike? What is to be done with it, this anger that dared not be swallowed? Don't dilute it, deny it, or cool it. Don't sweeten it or soften it, but pause for a moment. Could you hold it before your eyes, examine it with your heart and mind? Could you hold it, then touch it to your belly, that place where your soul rests? Could you let it enter there, knowing it is a part of you that needs to be treated kindly, that needs to be listened to, that needs to be honored? For it has the power to save you, to save us all, to save us all. Amen. I'm going to end this reflection with some final words of blessing. We so need to bless more. And we can all bless. We do so by giving our whole hearts to life, by being part of the creation and not life's destruction. So let's begin right here, right now. Let's give our whole hearts to life. These final words of blessing. Let us once more return to our lives. Let us live open-heartedly, so that the Spirit that lives to set us free can enter into us and fill our hearts so that we can become beacons of love and connection to those we meet in this, our shared world. Let's not flee our anger. Let's know our anger and create something beautiful from this passion that burns inside us all. And may we carry that spirit with us, and may we do so in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, in all that we do. Let's go in peace and love. Amen.